Let's go.
Sunderland returned to the Stadium of Light with a narrow lead from the first leg of the playoffs against Coventry. Regis had promised to try to win this leg, but this is high-stakes football, and the pressure was much more on Coventry to try to score. Sunderland just had to not lose. And so it was that Sunderland looked to make every advantage of being at home count. Coming away from the first leg, Sunderland had conceded possession and played long in a deliberate tactic to counter Coventry's high back line. Lampard asks a lot of running from his team, and they visibly tired in the last 10 minutes of the first leg. It had worked very well, and the winning goal had come from a misweighted back pass from a tired Van Eyck. Pre-match, there had been lots of talk of Lampard springing a tactical change like he did in the second leg against Leeds when he managed Derby some years ago. But in that situation, he had been practicing for 3 weeks. Lampard was caught totally unawares by Le Bris' tactics, and 3 days is not enough to try and turn anything round. It was then a certainty that Lampard would push the same tactics as before, but keep a more wary eye on his high back line, and that was about all he could do. It was also a certainty that Coventry would tire sooner in the game, playing the same way they did. So, Regis opted to play the same team in the same fashion. In the first leg, we had the same number of shots on target and close to the same XG as Coventry. Tonight, he felt that we were sure to see more of the ball and have more chances. The only change Frank Lampard made was to start Ephraim Mason-Clarke instead of Brandon Thomas Asante and move Haji Wright to be the central striker. The Sunderland, for their part, made no changes to the starting lineup. The modern colossus Daniel Ballard started again, and Enzo Lefebvre remained on the left, despite being instrumental in the first goal from the centre in the first leg. As the kick-off approached, the atmosphere was febrile. In the history of 234 playoff games, only 10 teams had ever come from behind in the first leg to win, and one of them was against us back in 2023.
So tonight, it's the dreamers, the romantics. Sunderland, a young, fearless side, driven on by a feverish, frenzied, football-crazy city.
It was clear from the off that Sunderland were going to sit in a 4-4-2 and look to break, just as they had in the first leg.
Behind that defence in terms of ball carrying.
A chance for Sunderland to drive a Coventry City here. Isidor. Now Patrick Roberts, everything's to his left.
And goal kicks would continue to be long from Sunderland rather than playing out.
Really frustrated Coventry City. Are they going to do it again? We're going to see.
Sunderland started brightly this time, with Roberts nearly putting Isidor in early on, and also playing an early cross that nearly fell for Enzo Lefebvre.
Centre-back role. We did play as a youngster coming through at Watford. Ball sent into the middle and it's dropped here to Lefebvre. It's Lefebvre after a slip from Milan Van Eyck. And it's fired.
Coventry were on the back foot and seemed to lack options up top. They wanted to turn Sunderland's fullbacks round and get in behind with overloads to pile in the crosses on players making diagonal runs into the box. Watch centre-half Thomas here. He's looking to the wings for overloads, but crossfield is too well covered, and Sakamoto drops short, losing the overload possibilities. And Thomas gives him a talking to for coming short immediately after playing it back to Grimes. But Sunderland kept their shape well, and Coventry were forced to pump the ball long.
Circling in the way, Thomas smashed away that time by Luke O'Neill.
Sunderland are going to be really happy if it's Bobby Thomas trying to play the little through ball.
Coventry's running, though, did have the capacity to make things very difficult. Here, Neil picks up De Silva, the fullback, but Coventry continue to just add numbers into the flank one at a time, and it makes it difficult. More midfielders have to come with them to cover, and Coventry are very well drilled in these overloads. Sheaf and Redoni move into the half spaces and easily find gaps to play it forward. They break the lines, and a crossing chance is created. It's good, clever football, and very hard to handle.
Ephraim Mason-Clarke. They've worked this well, Coventry. Haji right in the middle, likewise O'Neill, who climbed the highest. And Patterson will see that.
Despite this familiar attack pattern, Coventry did have to sit back a little to deal with the pace of Isidor and Mayenda. They did not want to repeat the mistakes of the previous Friday. And they were right to be wary. Isidor is nearly through here, but he dives as the ball starts to get away from him.
A very natural fall from Wilson Isidor. I think the referee's read it right. Kitchen coming across, and he's on his way. He exaggerates the fall, and it's a good interpretation.
Coventry do need to defend that in numbers, though. Less than a minute later, Mayenda is on the break and is swarmed by Coventry players. It's clear they had to consider this.
Mayenda to break here. He's surrounded. They are swarming around him in the end, and it comes.
Despite the lion's share of possession, Coventry had few ideas about how to get a clear strike on goal. Here, Rudoni has no options and is forced to send it back to Grimes to start play again.
This evening, if they want success.
There's Rudoni, a key man for this Coventry City side.
The first Coventry shot came from Mason-Clarke, who received a one ball, but who only had a space to shoot from out wide. And if this is all that they were going to do, then we should be fine. And so play continued. Coventry probing overloads on the wing, trying to get in behind.
On Friday, and Rudoni's continued his run here. Ballard will get to him.
And Sunderland playing on the break.
Chance for Sunderland on the counter-attack again here, but Isidor unable to find a way past Sheaf.
Gradually, though, Coventry started to take control of play. They won corners.
Good one for him to try and deal with. He's put it behind.
Again in the right place at the right time.
Sunderland still had chances. Le Bris just not able to slip the final ball through, but the chances were getting fewer for Sunderland. Coventry were pressing, and Sunderland had to defend furiously at times.
Thomas was again in there. There's Sakamoto. Clipped in by Sakamoto. Thomas waiting again. Rudoni tried to pounce. Sunderland labouring to clear. Eventually they get the job done.
Frustrations were starting to show for Coventry, though. Thomas here throwing Patrick Roberts to the ground. The clock was ticking on, and they needed a goal. Sunderland stuck to the game plan.
Isidor looking to set Mayenda away. Wilson.
And the game started to open up, going end to end.
Thomas. Sirkin. Bellingham. Now Dan Neil. As he runs to his left, Dan Neil. It's a slip in there. Kitchen picks himself up. Neil continues his run. There's Dan Neil again. Trying to slide it through to Dennis Sirkin. Now, 6 Sunderland players, 7 of them are out of the picture. And Coventry looking for something on the counter. Rudoni. There's Mason-Clarke. Hadji Wright's up there with him. Rudoni again. And Sunderland managed to flood bodies back. And once again, it was Dan Ballard who got to it.
There was a brilliant sprint to help his defence out. I think it was Enzo Le Bris.
Here is Le Bris. Mayenda. Eliza Mayenda.
This pace could not be kept up. And so it went.
There's Le Bris.
Sunderland breaking with Le Bris at the heart, and Coventry probing.
It's a good foul in the end. Got to be switched on though.
We're heading towards 3 additional minutes at the end of the first half. Van Everve forces another Coventry corner.
But Ballard always there to frustrate.
Additional minutes. Sakamoto with the cross. Thomas was rising.
And that took us to half-time. Coventry ascendant, but with few clear-cut chances. And Sunderland on the back foot largely, but not without chances.
But at the break at the Stadium of Light, Sunderland 0, Coventry City 0.
The second half continued in the same vein. Hadji Wright threatening.
Sheaf looking for Hadji Wright. Hits the deck just outside the box and is told to get up, and the Sunderland players, in view of what happened to Wilson Isidor, are asking for a yellow card here.
And Ballard clearing.
In it goes from Grimes. Dan Ballard. Of course it's Dan Ballard. That's a really important touch on that.
Outstanding defending.
Sunderland looked fragile. Coventry full of zeal. Even when we got out, they stole it back.
Towards the 4th official, questioning as to why that wasn't given under a foul, and Sunderland do get a foul.
But listen to the noise, there's nerves in here now. And the reason is that certainly in this second half, just like that, Coventry, they win in the duels, they win in the 50-50s.
Steps in.
There were still chances for Sunderland though.
Isidor. It's from Taylor Roberts. Patrick Roberts.
I think he's caught between two stools there.
And all the time, Ballard stood firm.
It's made room for the cross. Rodoni was waiting. Sakamoto again. Getting involved.
Yeah, Dan Ballard again. Getting his head on the ball. Magnet.
Just wondering how long.
When the hour mark rolled around, it did look as though Coventry were tiring.
Front line. Sims on the bench, obviously.
And sloppy fouls seemed to confirm it.
Van Eyck leaves his calling card.
Then a well-worked corner showed that maybe we could nick one.
Here's Le Bris. 09. The nine's ball in, and Wilson has to react. He had to get down sharply there.
And tensions ran high.
You can see there Wilson gets nowhere near the first one. Bellingham then drops on him. Again, I don't know how much more Bellingham can do there. It seemed to be natural in terms of his position.
Coventry were tired in possession now. Balls went backwards.
Van Eyck again. Sunderland send Coventry City backwards for now.
And then, with the pace of the game slowing, Sunderland, so good in defence all night, lost Mason-Clarke just for a moment.
Rodoni. Van Eyck, Haji Wright closing in, and behind him was Ephraim Mason-Clarke!
And the score was tied. Rigg came on for Isidor as Sunderland looked to weather the inevitable storm from a revitalised Sky Blues. Sunderland tried to move the ball, but Coventry were full of energy now and countered with newfound pace.
There's Van Eyck. That was after good work again from Sakamoto, doing the defending for Coventry. Rodoni.
Now it was Sunderland who were struggling. Roberts was visibly exhausted and forced to chase the ball.
Ephraim Mason-Clarke. De Silva.
And Neil's legs, tired, sold Job short on a pass here.
A foul by Joe Bellingham.
And with 90 seconds of injury time left, Coventry had a corner.
For Sunderland to do. See the talking, Ballard orchestrating in the middle of that.
But who was there to keep them out? Daniel, none shall pass Ballard.
Grimes with the signal. Sends that cross in. Ballard gets to it again. How many Dan Ballards are out there? And it goes again from Grimes. You know who gets to it once more, and Sunderland looking for something on the counter-attack.
And right in the last seconds of the match, Haji Wright mistimed a jump from across, and the ball went dead.
Was that the moment?
Yes, that was it. That was it. It's time.
Whew. Imagine how bad it would be to concede in the last play of the game. But we didn't, and extra time followed.
Two ties that you always felt were going to be incredibly tight, and that is the way it's panned out.
Well, I don't think
As extra time started, Sunderland looked spent.
second goal.
That Romain Mundle changes on hold for now, so Patrick Roberts has stayed on the pitch. Romain Mundle is warming up again.
And with only one man up front now for the break, when the ball was cleared, Mayenda had no one else to pass to.
Haji Wright, no one up there with Mayenda.
Regis finally brought Mundle on for Roberts in the 4th minute of extra time.
Romain Mundle can spark some life into this.
Coventry have had to move on in recent times with the sale.
Rigg went wide right and Mundle wide left, and Le Bris moved central. And slowly, but surely, with these fresh legs on the flanks, we began to claw ourselves back into the game.
Could be on here by Haji Wright. Patterson, again, really good starting point. The Sunderland keeper.
Mundle won a second ball, and a deft touch from Le Bris put him clear, but he couldn't make the final pass to Mayenda in time.
Making his way forward, he tried to smuggle it through to Mayenda. Twice Coventry City have come up with the answer.
The game was stretched now.
Well, it's the biggest scare they've had in the game.
Coventry won another corner. Job heading clear this time.
For it, but taken away from him by Joe Bellingham. There's the Silva. Patterson moving for that one too, under pressure from Thomas. Both hit the deck, play goes on.
And Coventry came again, with Hume felling Mason-Clarke just outside the box.
Trying to get back to that level now. Was there a push in there? Yes, there was. Just outside the box.
Yeah, just needs to stay on his feet. Just not.
The tension was enormous now.
Effort from him.
I think that's what some of those are thinking.
But it was well defended, and Sunderland broke in numbers.
Sunderland again have dealt with it. It's got to Van Eerwijk. Well, Sunderland looking for something on the counter-attack, but Sakamoto's there, and he's flattened. Another Coventry free kick.
Dan Neil penalised here when he clearly gets the ball on the break, and Coventry get another chance. But as half-time closed, Le Fay proved instrumental again.
Le Fay, it's a lovely ball. There's Bellingham. Bellingham able to find the gap. We'll have one additional minute at the end.
And as the second half of extra time began, it was the fresh legs of Rigg and Mundell that began to tell as Sunderland dominated play.
There's Chris Rigg.
Sunderland pinned Coventry in now and were finishing the stronger.
Tailor-made for somebody like him.
Hume with that ball through to Chris Rigg. Rigg across the face of goal. Mundell kept out. That was Sunderland's big moment.
A poor pass from Mundell though saw Haji Wright go free, and it was only excellent defending from Luke O'Nien that saved the day.
Pass dangerous, and Thomas Asante snaps in. Haji Wright held up and stopped by the tireless Luke O'Nien. The Stadium of Light rises to acclaim him.
Sunderland pressed play hard though. They won the ball back as the clock edged down.
Sunderland are circling again. It's Le Fay trying to step his way through. Le Fay again. Coventry with a man down. Play goes on. It's Dan Neil who hits it.
And Sunderland had a corner with 3 minutes remaining, but it didn't clear the first man.
In it goes, and it was just looking for that flick at the near post. Got the flick, but it goes behind.
And Coventry still had a chance.
What are you going to do with it?
There's Brandon Thomas Asante. Thomas Asante. Oh, he saw his opportunity, he went for it.
And preparing for penalties with just 90 seconds left, the Pope came on for Sirkin to try and bring some divine intervention. And there was time for just one last attack. Le Fay brings a loose ball under control to Hume, who tries to lay it back to him down the line. And he hates the fact that he's got this pass wrong.
Might be taking a penalty.
But he's quick with the throw.
We've seen that before, haven't we?
And Le Fay plays a perfectly weighted ball to put Hume round the back. And with just 42 seconds on the clock, Sunderland win a corner. This would be the last kick of the game. And with just 1 second of play left on the clock.
Plenty of movement inside that box. Ballard!
Daniel George Ballard rose to meet the ball, powered it into the goal, hitting the underside of the crossbar and sending the Stadium of Light into absolute pandemonium. It was probably the most incredible moment the stadium has witnessed. Neil leapt into the crowd. Sirkin really jumped into the crowd. Job fell over the boards, hugged anyone, lost the plot, and couldn't believe it, and pezzled a beach ball into orbit. No one could quite believe it. So often we've been on the wrong end of these moments.
The sound of this city dreaming!
Only football can deliver such universal and communal moments like this.
They just be a step closer for Sunderland. This is off the scale.
Well, just when you thought you'd seen it all.
This is the playoffs in its glory for almost all of this stadium, but the playoffs in its pain for the Coventry City fans. They cannot believe what's just happened. And Dan Ballard, a central figure, he's had the most touches, mainly at the other end. One huge touch, a moment to last a lifetime at the other end.
Well, you got a Sunderland legend down there in Kevin Phillips. Dan Ballard has joined him.
Sunderland have been waiting for heroes to feel at home, wearing that heavy shirt and make this club great again, to stand with the greats again. They could be the players.
And we have to do it all over again next week at Wembley. I'll see you there till the end.
Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.